All right, so here we go. Starting off at a late start here. Okay. Um, I'm live on YouTube and I'm live on Club Deck. So I need to start over again from the beginning because my mic was muted and I didn't even know. So here we go. Before I begin, I got to give all praises to Yahweh, the God of Israel. This I believe this dog, all of a sudden this animal now starting to want to bark and making noise when I'm gonna start this class. But I got to continue the class. I can't. There's no way to drown this animal out. It's messing up my class. Um, but again, before I begin, I got to give all praises to the Creator of all, the Holy One of Israel, Yahweh, His name in the Hebrew, which means I am, He is, or calls us to be, and we pay homage to His first begotten Son, Hamashiach Yahweh Shai. Christ Jesus in the English, which means anointed Savior or anointed salvation. And as our brother Jude puts in his letter, fails to contend for the faith that was once delivered to the saints. Okay, so I'm going to get right to it. This dog right here will mess up like Satan and mess up my class. So we here in Daniel chapter 8. I'm gonna see, can I let me share my screen and get to the Bible verses and stuff I need to get to. Let's see, can I pull this Bible verse up here so we can take a look at it? Come up, go back and see because I don't see it up. Try there. Okay. All right, so let me go to the book of Daniel here so we can get this. You can see where I'm going and what I'm reading while I'm doing this. So we're in Daniel chapter 8. Let this pop up. We're in verse 1. Okay. Let me put this up because we're going to be scrolling down. Daniel chapter 8, verse 1. It says, in the third year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared unto me, even unto me, Daniel, after that which appeared unto me at the first. So the first vision that was given to him was in Daniel chapter 7 and verse 1. So here we now in the third year of Belshazzar, he having this particular vision, and there was another one given to him the first year. Okay. So Daniel chapter 7, verse 1 says, in the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and vision of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matter. So that's that one came to him in Belshazzar's first year. So Daniel chapter 7 came to him in Belshazzar's first year, and here in Daniel chapter 8, verse 1, this came 2 years later in his third year. All right, so Daniel chapter 8, verse 2, and I saw in a vision, and it came to pass when I saw that I was at Shushan in the palace, which is in the province of Elam, and I saw in a vision, and I was by the river Ulai. So he's in the province of Elam. He's in the Elamite province. This is the province really of the Persian and Medes in the Shushan, the palace. So at this time, the Babylonians was have rule over this area, I guess here, or they're over there. They're in unison with the Elamites. Verse 3, then I lifted up my eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram, which had 2 horns, and the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last. So the Medes would then always be the lower horn, and the Persians, which came up after, would be the higher horn, right? So the Medes came up first, and then the Persians afterwards. Verse 4, I saw the ram pushing westward. So when you get directions in the Bible, you get the starting point. So the starting point would always be Israel, or in Jerusalem. So they was pushing westward, or it would be from that particular location where that particular beast or that particular kingdom is. It'll be from either there or it'll be from Israel, your starting point. So it was pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast, I mean, no other kingdom, because beast equals to a kingdom or rulership, no other beast might stand before him. Neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand, but he did according to his will and became great. Okay, so that's speaking of the Persians and the Medes. Verse 5, and as I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth and touched not the ground. So that's showing just how fast he was moving. He was conquering real quick, going so fast that it looked like he didn't even touch the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. Notable meaning remarkable or famous, or someone that's in, or some important person. That's what notable is going, this notable horn. We know who that notable horn there is. Verse 6, and he came to the ram that had two horns, which I had seen standing upon the river, and ran upon him in the fury of his power. So the ram was coming very strong. Verse 7, and I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler. Choler is anger, or indignation or anger against him, right? Against the ram, and smote the ram and break his two horns, and there was no power in the ram to stand before him, but he cast him down to the ground and stomped upon him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. So we see that they're going down. So we're gonna get more information on that, get a little bit of background information. We're gonna come to the book of gotta scroll down. So we read all the way down to verse 7 here. Read all the way down to verse 7. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and now on the company Apocrypha to get some background. This is when the Greeks took down the Persian and Mede Empire. We can come into First Maccabees. Just read about it happening here. This is the fulfillment recorded here. First Maccabees. First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 1. It says, and it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Kittim, right? Kittim goes back to Japheth's son, Kittim, in Genesis chapter 10, verse 4. That was the land of Cyprus. Came out of the land of Kittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, and he reigned in his stead the first over Greece. Because Alexander, he is that notable horn that came out of them. Verse 2, and made many wars and won many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth, and went through to the ends of the earth and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted and his heart was lifted up. And he gathered a mighty strong host and ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries unto him. And after these things he fell sick and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he called his servants, his generals, which were upon such as were honorable, and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. Okay, so Alexander means defender of men, or man defending. So these men was brought up with him since he was young. Obviously, he was defending these men. These men became grateful to him. They formed into an army, and after he got prideful and whatnot, then he got sick and he would die. So men, a defender of men, or men defending, have a little bit of connotation of homosexuality there. So he got sick and they fought at his kingdom. Okay, verse 7. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died, and his servants bare rule everyone in his place. So we have that there. Verse 9. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. Okay, so his four generals, the first one is, I'm gonna go with Ptolemy. Ptolemy ruled Egypt and Libya. Those are the North Africa. Call that today North Africa. Okay, Ptolemy. I think the first one was Soter. The first Ptolemy was Soter, right, which means preserver. And the next general, Seleucid or Seleucus, which means a cavalry. He was an officer of Alexander, one of the generals again. He ruled in Syria, Babylon, and Media. Okay. The next one you have is Cassander. He ruled Macedonia and Greece in the west. And the last one is Lacemaeus. He ruled Thrace, Asia, and Bosporus in the north, or Bosporus in the north. So those are his four generals again: Cassander, Lacemaeus, Seleucus, and Ptolemy, Soter, right? So I'm gonna come back now to Daniel. Daniel chapter 8, and we're gonna start at verse 8. Slide this all the way down. So I'm gonna continue to read down. This is where we are. Therefore, the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken. And for it came up four notable ones toward the four winds of heaven. And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great, toward the north, and toward the east, and toward the pleasant land. And it waxed great, even to the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the host and of the stars to the ground, and stomped upon them. Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. And an host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression, and it cast down the truth, which is the Torah, the law and the prophets, to the ground, and it practiced and prospered, right? So I'm going to come back now and deal with verse 9 with the little horn. The little horn, I'm going to start off with 1 Maccabees chapter 1, verse 10, where I left off at. All right, 1 Maccabees chapter 1, verse 10. And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been an hostage at Rome, and he reigned in 137 year of the kingdom of the Greeks. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men, who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. So when they came back into the land, they were separated from them, but now they want to go back. and deal with it. That's why Nehemiah told them to send away that woman and her child, and they didn't deal with them other nations. But now here, since this happened, now they want to try to come back and deal with these nations here now. Okay. Verse 12. So this device pleased them well. Then certain of the people were so forward therein that they went to the king, who gave them license to go after the ordinances of the heathen, whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the custom of the heathen. All right. And verse 15, and made themselves uncircumcised and forsook the holy covenant and joined themselves to the heathen and were sold to do mischief. Right. So that's the little horn that came up, and it says, and he went toward the east and toward the pleasant land. And that's when he started to corrupt the Israelites in there. Okay. So the south is dealing with, that would be Egypt. So he went on down to the south. That would be the Egypt and toward the pleasant land. Okay. That information here, I'm going to read it in First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 16 to 19, talks about going to the south, which would be Egypt. All right. First Maccabees chapter 1, we're left off at verse 16. Now, when the kingdom was established before Antiochus, he taught to reign over Egypt, right after south, that he might have the dominion over two realms, right? He wanted to take the other general's realm, right? Ptolemy. Whereupon he entered into Egypt with a great multitude, with chariots and elephants and horsemen and a great navy. All right. Verse 18, and made war against Ptolemy, king of Egypt. But Ptolemy was afraid of him and fled, and many were wounded to death. Thus they got a strong cities in the land of Egypt, and he took the spoils thereof. All right. And after that, Antiochus had smitten Egypt, he returned again in the 140 and third year, and went up against Israel. That's going off into the, when it says going off into the pleasant land in Daniel chapter 8, verse 9, because he went to the south first, then he went to the pleasant land, like he's reading here, he's doing, and he went up against Israel and Jerusalem with a great multitude, right? And entered proudly into the sanctuary and took away the golden altar and the candlestick of light and all the vessels thereof, and the table of the showbread, and the pouring vessels, and the vials, and the censer of gold, and the veil, and the crowns, and the golden ornaments that were before the temple, all of which he pulled off. He took also the silver and gold and the precious vessels. Also he took the hidden treasures which he found. And when he had taken all away, he went into his own land, having made a great massacre and spoken very proudly. Right? That's what he did when he went there. So that's going off into verse 9 when he went to the land. It says verse 10 in Daniel chapter 8. And it waxed great, even to the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the host and the stars to the ground and stomped upon it. So we're going to deal with the stars. Who are the stars here, right? Even to the host of heaven, the stars, speaking of this, the host of heaven. We're going to find out who that is. Those are the Israelites, and the stars of the Israelites. We're going to pull the scriptures here to prove what I am saying. I'm first going to come to the book of Judges. Judges chapter 5, verse 20, to deal with the stars. These are the host of heaven. It's also twofold as well. It could also mean the angelic host, but this is a earthly army, and Joseph's fighting on the ground. So there's some people on the ground is referring to. So Judges chapter 5, verse 20 says, they fought from heaven. The stars in their course fought against Sisera. So, you know, Sisera was a fleshly man, and we fought against them. We fought against them in Judges chapter 4, and I think verse 14. All right. Judges chapter 4, verse 14. It says, and Deborah said unto Barak, up, for this is the day in which the Lord have delivered Sisera into thine hand. Is not the Lord gone out before thee? So Barak went down from Mount Tabor, and 10,000 men after him. So these are the Israelites that went after him. And I think it was Naphtali and Zebulun. Let me read that right quick. Let me jump up to verse 10. It says, and Barak called Zebulun and Naphtali to Kadesh, and he went up with 10,000. So these are the 10,000 men that went with him from Zebulun and Naphtali. So now verse 15. And the Lord discomfited Sisera and all his hosts and all his chariots and all his hosts with the edge of the sword before Barak, so that Sisera lightened down off his chariot and fled away on his feet. But Barak pursued after the chariot and after the host unto Harosheth of the Gentiles, and all the host of Sisera fell upon the edge of the sword, and there was not a man left. But Sisera fled. He was the only one, but the rest of the army was done. So this is showing you who fought when it says here in Judges 5 and 20, they fought from heaven, stars in their courses fought against Sisera. That's one. And there is another one I can pull. If that is not clear, let me go to the book of, come to the New Testament, when it comes to the book of Jude, verse 3. And there's another one after that. So I'm going to pull 3 precepts to show you the start of dealing with the Israelites. Okay. Coming to Jude, Jude verse 13, actually, not 3. Jude verse 13. Okay. Jude verse 13. All right, let me start up at verse 12 for some context. Right. It says, these are spots in your feasts of charity, when they feast with you, feeding themselves without fear. Clouds they are without water, carried about of winds, trees without fruit, withered without fruit, twice dead, plucked up by the roots. Raging waves of the sea, foaming out their own shame, wandering stars they're called here, to whom is reserved the darkness, the blackness of darkness forever. So these are wandering stars here. And let me get the Greek for you right quick with that. Understanding on that. So the English word of wandering is the Greek word planetes. It means wandering, or was a false teacher, someone that's operating without morals and is out there exploiting other people. So that's what that's dealing with there. And of course, stars again, star, a star is a star. So these are the wandering stars. You're clearly speaking of man, calling them stars here. And these are the other people, the other Israelites who was going off. Right. And then we have one more in the book of Revelations, chapter 1. And we're going to get verse 20. It says, the mystery of the 7 stars which thou sawest in my right hand, and the 7 golden candlesticks. The 7 stars are the angels of the 7 churches, and the 7 candlesticks which thou sawest are the 7 churches. So we have here, these are the 7 angels of the 7 churches. So these are the leaders, these are the overseers. These are the overseers of the church. These are not angelic beings. So we see the leaders of the church here who are Israelites. The bishops are called angels or overseers. And this is what it says in the book of Acts. We read in Acts chapter 20, verse 28 says this. Okay. Acts chapter 20, and I'm going to read verse 28. It says, take heed therefore unto yourselves and to all the flock over which the Holy Ghost have made you overseers, right? Also called angels or messengers, to feed the church of God, which he have purchased with his own blood. Okay, we see that there. So those are the precepts there for the angels, for stars in the book of Daniel. All right, those are the host of heaven on earth. That would be us, the Israelites. So continue here in Daniel chapter 8, coming down to verse 11, say, yeah, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. So the prince of the host, this is going to go back to, I think this is Christ. I'm going to pull the precept on this in Joshua chapter 5, verse 13. Okay, I'm going to go to Joshua chapter 5, verse 13, down to verse 15. Okay. This is the prince of the host of the Lord, is what it is speaking of. There's a war and a fight. So Joshua chapter 5, verse 13. And it came to pass when Joshua was by Jericho that he lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, there stood a man over against him with his sword drawn in his hand. And Joshua went unto him and said unto him, art thou for us or for our adversaries? And he said, nay, but as captain of the host of the Lord am I now come. So this man here is the captain, right? Or the prince of the host of the Lord. And Joshua fell on his face to the earth and did worship and said unto him, what saith my Lord unto his servant? And the captain of the Lord host said unto Joshua, loose thy shoes from off thy foot, for the place whereupon thou standest is holy. And Joshua did so. So this is the host of the Lord. So he had magnified himself greatly, waxed great up to, unto the host of the Lord. Not above him, didn't do anything to him, but unto, even, it says, even to the host of the Lord. It says, and it was cast down, and he cast down some of the host of the stars, the Israelite, to the ground and stumped upon them, which when he came in, he was talking big thing. That's verse 10. Verse 11, yeah, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. Okay. And it says, verse the daily sacrifice, let me get some precepts on that. The daily sacrifice was taken away. Okay. That was what was supposed to be done in the morning and the evening. The morning and evening, that was stuff was supposed to be done. Okay. 1 second here. I need to grab the precepts with that. One is in, I know, Numbers chapter 3 is a precept in Numbers chapter 3, and one in First Maccabees. Give me 1 second and grab that precept dealing with the daily sacrifice that was what it was dealing with. And we're going to continue from there. Okay, let's see, Numbers chapter 28, verse 3. I'm saying 3, 28, Numbers 28 and 3, start there. Number 28 and 3, it says, and thou shalt say unto them, this is the offering made by fire, which ye shall offer unto the Lord, 2 lambs for the first year without spot, day by day, for a continual burnt offering, right? That's the continual burnt offering. And it's called here the continual offering, okay? In Daniel's. I mean, the daily sacrifice to be taken away, right? So there's another precept here for that they did this in the morning, and they did it also in the evening as well, okay? We can come on to the book of So I'm losing my place here. First Chronicles 16 and 40. The last precept on this. Losing my place here. First Chronicles chapter 16. Verse 39 and verse 40. So First Chronicles chapter 16, verse 39 and verse 40. It says, and Zadok the priest and his brethren, the priests before the tabernacle of the Lord in the high place that was at Gibeon, to offer burnt offerings unto Yahweh, the Lord, upon the altar of burnt offerings continually, morning and evening, and to do according to all that is written in the law of the Lord, which he commanded Israel. All right. So that was almost taken away. The evening and the morning and evening sacrifice was taken away. So come on down now to back to Daniel chapter 8, and we at verse 13. Verse 12. It says, and an host was given him against the daily sacrifice, which I just went through, by reason of transgression, which the Israelites were doing, making a covenant with these heathen, as we read in First Maccabees chapter 11, verse 15. I went to that. It says, by reason of transgression, right? They forsook the law. It says, and they cast down the truth, which is the Torah, to the ground, and it practiced and prospered. Verse 13, and I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, how long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, in giving both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden down underfoot. So we can get some precept on the saints. And I heard one saint. So this is twofold. This could be angels, and it can also be Israelites. Okay, I'm gonna get the first precept showing you that is angels, angelic beings, and get the other one that can also show you that it can also mean the Israelites. So Deuteronomy 33, verse 1, 2, 3. We're gonna get Deuteronomy 33. We're gonna get verse 1, 2, 3. Deuteronomy 33, verse 1. And this is the blessing wherewith Moses, the man of God, blessed the children of Israel before his death. He said, the Lord came from Sinai and rose up from Seir unto them. He shined forth from Mount Paran, and he came with 10,000s of saints. From his right hand went a fiery law for them. Yea, he loved the people. All his saints are in thy hand, and they sat down at thy feet. Everyone shall receive of thy words. Okay, so we see that clearly here the saints are speaking of the angelic force that came with him, and is also insinuating here that also the people, Israel. We get another one, a precept that goes directly to it being Israel, is Psalms 148, verse 14. When we get Psalms 148, verse 14, going to come right back to Daniel. Psalms 148, verse 14 reads, he also exalteth the horn of his people, the praise of all his saints. Who are these saints? Even of the children of Israel, a people near unto him. So this word saints can be twofold depending on the context here, right? So the one that's speaking here in Daniel chapter 8, verse 13 are speaking of the angelic saints, right? Then I heard one saint, angelic being, speaking unto another angelic being, saint, said unto that certain saint, which spake, how long shall the vision concerning the daily sacrifice, which I went through, the daily sacrifice, Numbers 28 and 3, and First Chronicles 16, 39 and 40. and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host be trodden on the foot. Okay, it says, and he said unto him, because actually when you read in Septuagint, it says him. It says, and said unto him, not unto me, because he was not speaking to Daniel. Another saint, asking another saint a question. So he's going to respond to that saint. He didn't respond to Daniel. So accurately, this would have to be him. And he said unto him, that saint that asked the question, not to Daniel. Unto 2,300 days, it says, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed, because they defiled the sanctuary. Right. So it says unto 2,300 days. That's like 6 years and a half, roughly. It's rough dating, but it's around 6 years and a half. So we know this deal with the situation with the Maccabees when they defiled the temple. There was war and everything like that, and then they, so on and so forth. It was fighting with these people until they completely clear all of them out. I think it was a year when they started or something like that. They kind of did the temple, but then they had to continue the war and fight and trying to get all the rest of the Gentiles out of the country till they set up their Hashmonean dynasty. So it took about like 6.5, 7 years, something like that. Everything was really till they clear out these Gentiles and all these wicked Israelites, stuff like that. So that's what this is dealing with here when he give them that time frame. So coming down to verse 15. And it came to pass when even I, Daniel, had seen the vision and sought for the meaning, then behold, there stood before me as the appearance of a man. And I heard a man's voice between the banks of Ulai, which called and said, Gabriel, which said unto me, Gabriel, make this man to understand the vision. So he came near where I stood, and when he came, I was afraid and fell upon my face. But he said unto me, understand, O son of man, for at the time of the end shall be the vision. Okay, let me scroll on down here when I'm sharing. You can get it, because I'm going to verse 18 all the way down. So that's where I'm at. 18 to the end. So we see Daniel here is called son of man. Christ is called son of man. Ezekiel is called son of man, but Christ is called the son of man in the 7th chapter of Daniel. The definite article is there in Aramaic, the son of man, because the portion of Daniel is in Aramaic goes from Daniel chapter 2, verse 4, all the way to the end of Daniel chapter 7. All that is in Aramaic, and then the Hebrew resumes again in the 8th chapter, all the way to the end of the book, right? So in the 7th chapter, when it says son of man, that's the definite article. The is there in Aramaic, the son of man. This is just the son of man here. And in Ezekiel, he's the same thing, just called son of man, which is dealing with a prophet. Son of man is talking about someone that's a prophet. Okay, because we have in the book of Numbers where it says, God is a man that he should lie, nor the son of man that he should repent. The son of man that he should repent. So the son of man, we know that man needs to repent. But that verse is saying the son of man, they need not to repent. So that's speaking of a prophet, because when he's given the word of God to speak, he shouldn't be repenting on that, saying that he made a mistake, or he need to not be saying that, because those are the words of God. So a son of man in that context there, when he's saying that, is speaking of a prophet speaking God's words, do not need to repent, but a regular son of man needs to. So the phrase son of man is speaking of a prophet of God that don't need to repent. So God isn't a man that he should lie, nor the son of man a prophet that he should repent. So that's what that term actually really means, is a prophet. Okay, we're continuing here in the book of Daniel chapter 18. Now, as he was speaking with me, I was in a deep sleep on my face toward the ground, but he touched me and set me upright. So Gabriel here was in his full angelic being. When these angels manifest themselves in a complete angelic form, you're going to pass out. You're going to go into a trance. You're going to lose all strength. Okay, we see the same thing happen again when you read in the book of Revelations with John. Send after him, he passed out too as well. So when they come in their angelic form, you're going to pass out. But these angels usually come in human form. So when you see angels speaking to people and they're not passing out because the angel are in a human form. Gabriel with Mary, he was in a human form. Right? In different places where you read it, they're in human form and people are passing out because you cannot stand the power of these angels in the angelic form. All right, so continuing here, verse 19, Daniel chapter 8, verse 19. And he said, behold, I will make thee know what shall be in the last end of that in the last end of the indignation, for at the time appointed the end shall be. Verse 20. The ram which thou sawest having two horns are the kings of Media and Persia. And the rough goat is the king of Grecia. So now you're giving the interpretation of the vision. And the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king, which is Alexander. Right? Let me briefly put a precept on that. Let me get Daniel chapter 11, verse 3 and verse 4. Confirm that. Daniel chapter 11. And let me get verse 3 and verse 4. As a matter of fact, let me start at verse 1 for some context, but I really want verse 3 and verse 4. So Daniel 11 and 1 says, also in the first year of Darius the Mede, even I stood to confirm and to strengthen him. And now will I show thee the truth. Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia, and the fourth shall be far richer than them all. And by his strength, through his riches, he shall stir up against the realm of Grecia. So that's what happened when I read in the Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 1. This last king here, the fourth one, he stirred up against the Grecia, and he was fighting against Alexander, and he eventually lost. Now, verse 3 says, and a mighty king shall stand up, that shall rule with great dominion, and do according to his will. And when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken, and shall be divided toward the 4 winds of heaven, and not to his posterity, meaning not to his children. So when Alexander separated his kingdom, he didn't give it to his sons after him, but give it to his generals. Because this clearly says here, not to his posterity, nor according to his dominion, which he ruled. So none of those 4 generals had the territory that Alexander ruled over. For his kingdom shall be plucked up, even for others beside those. Okay, that's what happened to Alexander. Then he goes off into some other stuff, right? So let me come into Daniel chapter 8, and now I'm in verse 22. It says, now that being broken, whereas 4 stood up for it, 4 kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power. Okay. So I went through who those nations were, who those generals were in their nation. Verse 23, and in the latter times of their kingdom, when the transgressors shall come to a full, a king of fair countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up, and his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. So he's getting some kind of help, and that will be from Satan. And he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper and practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. So the mighty and the holy people here, the mighty I would think would be eventually at the end where they defeated the Hashmoneans, going off into the Romans. The Hashmoneans, the mighty, the Maccabees, and then the holy people in Israel. I think that's what that is. Don't quote me on that, but that's kind of fitting in there in the whole history. Verse 25, and through his policy shall he prosper and cause craft, and through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. So he shall stand up against the prince of princes. This is speaking of the Messiah. So this is twofold going off into the end times. And here the prince of princes, I don't have to identify who this is back in the Maccabean time in that term, but this is clearly here speaking of the Messiah, the Prince of Princes. We got the precepts of that in Daniel chapter 9, verse 25, which speaks of the prince. And then we have another precept in Ezekiel, the 40th chapter, I think the 45th chapter, that talks about a prince of princes there as well. So Daniel chapter 8, verse 26 is, and the vision of the evening and the morning, which was told, is true. Wherefore shut up the vision, for it shall be for many days. So we see this is going to happen in that time. This is not just speaking of the end times, but for many days, this is speaking of them. So we have many days in there when he says it's going to be 2,300 days. That's many days. So all this stuff's happening between that time and stuff there. Verse 27, and I, Daniel, fainted and was sick certain days. Afterwards, I rose up and did the king's business, and I was astonished at the vision, but none understood it. So he told us to people, but they didn't understand it. They didn't get it. Again, he was also told to shut it up, but he did the king's business, and part of the king's business is to let them know what's going on. So he had a vision of, I'm getting into that in the background in the PDF I'm going to read. So it's going to cover all this information here. This is going to go off into a deeper background. So this is the scriptural understanding of it and the background of it. And I'm going to go into some historical background of it, reading to this PDF here to give some background information on what Daniel is saying here. So he told it to people, said, but they understood it not. All right. So now I'm going to read through the historical documented background that correlates with Daniel, the 8th chapter. All right, so let me stop sharing here. Pick it up where it needs to be. So where am I in now? So let me get the other PDF up. Close this one. Let me go up to the next one. Okay, go. All right, so let me share this one here and start with the background. All right, so here we go. This is the background to Daniel chapter 8 in the last verse. Daniel chapter 8, verse 20, and the ABC, Nabonidus Chronicle, a possible reason Cyrus is mentioned on the Babylonian Chronicle 11 years before he took over Babylon. Okay, come down. Okay, illustration 1, Bram, which you saw having 2 horns, are the kings of Media and Persia, Daniel chapter 8, verse 20. In Daniel 8 and 20, Daniel was told that Media and Persia would be a world power. According to Daniel 8 and 1, this vision was in the 3rd year of Belshazzar, which was the 5th year of Nabonidus. Illustration 2, Nabonidus Chronicle ABC 7, observed, located in the British Museum, London, Britain, date circa 529 BCE. Cyrus, later king of Persians, and Artaxerxes, king of the Medes, are mentioned in Nabonidus' 6th year, and Cyrus' actions are monitored by the Babylonians after that. Okay, so once Daniel tells them the vision, the Babylonians start to monitor what the Medes and the Persians are doing. Right? So abstract. The Babylonian Chronicle, ABC 7, also known as the Nabonidus Chronicle, was not only the actions of King Nabonidus and Belshazzar, the crown prince, but in Nabonidus' 6th year, which is 550 BC, there is a seemingly unrelated entry about Cyrus, king of Ansan, defeating Artaxerxes, or I'm saying this wrong, Astagates, the last king of the Medes. This is not the only account of Cyrus in the ABC 7, the Nabonidus Chronicle. For we see another entry about Cyrus in Nabonidus' 9th year, when Cyrus, defeated a king of another country and another possible mention of him in Nabonidus' 16th year. These entries are up to 11 years before Cyrus took over Babylon in Nabonidus' 17th year. A possible reason the Babylonians started monitoring the actions of the Medes and Persians can be shown from Daniel 8 and 20, in which Daniel was told by an angel that his vision of a ram and a he-goat meant the Medes and the Persians would be a world power that would fight with and be defeated by the Greeks. In Daniel chapter 8, verse 27, Daniel saw he went back to work during the king's business that we read and talked with people about the dream, but no one understood it. Daniel's 8, verse 1 records Daniel's vision of the ram and goat happened in the 3rd year of Belshazzar's reign. By close examination of the Nabonidus Chronicle, the Nabonidus Cylinder from Sippar, and the verse accounting of Nabonidus, we can show that the 3rd year of Belshazzar was the 5th year of Nabonidus. Since the monitoring of the Medes and Persians by the Babylonian Chronicle started in the 6th year of Nabonidus, which is the year that Daniel had the dream of the ram and the he-goat, we can provide a reason why the Babylonians would start recording on their chronicle what the Medes and the Persians were doing. Daniel had identified a threat to their status of world power, and they started monitoring the actions of this new coalition that was forming. It would be another 11 years before the Medes and Persians took over Babylon in fulfillment of Daniel's vision. Introduction. Why is Cyrus on the Babylonian Chronicle ABC 7, 11 years before he took over Babylon? The Nabonidus Chronicle ABC 7 seems to be different from the other Babylonian chronicles in that, this is how it's different, in that it only records the actions of the king of Babylon and the crown prince Belshazzar. It also has 2 or possible 3 entries about the actions of foreign kings fighting with each other, which do not involve Nabonidus or Belshazzar. So they're recording something some other kings are doing that don't even deal with them. So why are they recording this thing? Why are they recording about what the Medes and the Persians are doing when they have nothing to do with them at all? It's because someone told them something. You got to monitor these guys. These guys, something was told that they're going to rise up and take over. So they start to monitor them right after Daniel gets that vision and he tells them. In Nabonidus' 6th year, the only entry is about Cyrus, then king of Ansan, defeating Astagates, the last king of the Medes. Here is the quote. The 6th year, Astagates mustered his army and marched against Cyrus, king of Ansan, for conquest. The army rebelled against Astagates, and he was taken prisoner. So his whole army rebelled against him. They handed him over to Cyrus. I didn't get the other. There's other histories here why they turned him over. He was like a real bad king. He was doing something to his own army. I think he lost the war. I think so I got another PDF up here, but he lost the war and he was even hurting some of his own army, his own men. And so when they went to war, they turned him over to Cyrus. Continuing, Cyrus marched to Ecbatana, the royal city, the silver, the gold, the goods, the property, which he carried off as booty from Ecbatana. He took to Ansan, the goods and the property of the army of would be Astagates. Okay, 3 years later, Nabonidus' 9th year, there is another entry about Cyrus, who is now called the king of Persia, defeating another king whose name has not been preserved. The information about Cyrus starts in line 15. Notice that Nabonidus was in Tema, and the prince, the officers, and the army, the prince, the officers, and the army were in Akkad, Babylon. Okay, The full name of the deities listed in the record will not be given because of Exodus 23 and 13. And in all things that I have said unto thee, be circumspect and make no mention of the name of other idols, neither let it be heard out of your mouth. Okay, I want to come back up here and read this little part right here. It says, see Nebuchadnezzar's cylinder from Sippar, to see that Nebuchadnezzar's eldest son was named Belshazzar. See the verse account of Nebuchadnezzar later in this chronicle to see that in the 3rd year of his reign, Nebuchadnezzar gave the kingship over to his eldest son, Belshazzar. So we see that the Bible is accurate. This chronicle tells us he gave the kingship over to his son and they named him Belshazzar, and the Bible is accurate by calling him the king of Babylon. It says the 2 inscriptions can be read here. Cylinder of Nebuchadnezzar. You can just Wikipedia, you can Wikipedia this and find this is here. Okay, there's information here. All right. If I remember, I'm gonna try to put this link on my YouTube channel in the about section, in the more section there. So you can go ahead and click on this link there. But you can Google this and you'll get this information here anyway. The other links here, for some reason, they're just not working. Continuing here. Therefore, when Daniel records in Daniel 8 and 1 that the vision of the ram and the goat came to him in the 3rd year of Belshazzar, we can conclude it was also the 6th year of Nebuchadnezzar. Therefore, the beginning of the monitoring of the Medes and Persians starts on the Babylonian Chronicle ABC 7, the same year that Daniel was told in Daniel 8 and 20 that the Medes and the Persians would be a world power. A copy of the ABC 7 Chronicles can be found here. Again, these things are not working, but you can just Google that and try to find it. Okay, continuing here. Okay, from ABC 7, Nebuchadnezzar's Chronicle. The 9th year, Nebuchadnezzar the king was in Tema, while the prince, the officers, and the army were in Akkad. The king in the month of Nisanu to Babylon did not come. There's a false god name here. Did not come to Babylon, and the false god name here did not come out. The Ikatu festival did not take place. So like you needed the king there to have this festival there. All right. So Nebuchadnezzar went to Tema. Tema, that's Edomite prophecy. Tema is Teman. He's in Edomite territory. So I mean, I don't know why he was in there. All I know is that the god he worshiped, I think it was Marduk, remember the name correctly, gave him some vision that he was supposed to go over there and build some city, and that's why he was over there. So he left. He left over there. He left Babylon and made his eldest son Belshazzar king, and he was over there in Tema. Okay, continuing. The offerings were presented to the gods of Babylon, the Borsippa, as in normal times, in Isigil and Isaida. On the 5th day of the month, Nisanu, the queen mother in Dura Karasu, which is on the banks of the Euphrates upstream from Sippar. She died. The prince and his army were in mourning for 3 days, and there was an official mourning period in the month of Simanu in Akkad. There was an official mourning period for the queen mother in the month of Nisanu. Cyrus, king of Parsu, mustered his army across the Tigris below Abuela in the month Ajaru. He marched to the land of that's cut off. He killed its king, this is the unnamed king, took his possession and stationed his own garrison there. Afterward, the king and his garrison was in it. Okay. There is another mention of Persia in the 16th year of Nebuchadnezzar, but the chronicle is badly damaged in that spot. So the rest of the information about that year is lost. See line 3.3 below. lacuna. You don't know what lacuna. The 16th year, killed, defeated the river, something I, false god named Urak, some of Persia, and some. So that's of Persia. That's where he's saying that's something like Cyrus, because he was the king of Persia at that time, the 16th year. Okay. These injuries about Cyrus, which start 11 years before Cyrus took over Babylon, have nothing to do with what Nabonidus or Belshazzar was doing. Why would these similarly unrelated injuries about the actions of Medes and Persians be on the Babylonian Chronicle? A possible reason would be Daniel's vision of the ram and the he-goat, as explained in Daniel, the 8th chapter. To show this, we first need to establish what year Belshazzar was given the kingship. Okay. One, Belshazzar was given the kingship of Babylon in Nabonidus' 3rd year. There are 2 documents that establish when Belshazzar was given the kingship of Babylon by Nabonidus. A, the Nabonidus cylinder from Sippar. Belshazzar was Nabonidus' eldest son. Illustration 3, Nabonidus cylinder of Sippar dates to 555 to 540 BCE, located in the British Museum. It mentions Belshazzar as Nabonidus' eldest son. The first document is Nabonidus cylinder from Sippar. This is the possible this is possibly Nabonidus' last building inscription, being dated to 540 BCE. It not only tells how Nabonidus repaired a temple ziggurat, but also mentions his firstborn son, whose name is Belshazzar. Here is the quote from the cylinder. As for me, Nabonidus, king of Babylon, save me from sinning against you, your great Godhead, and grant me as a present a life long of days, and as Belshazzar, the eldest of my son offspring, instill reverence for your great Godhead in his heart, and may he not commit any cultic mistake. May he be sated with a life of plenitude. B, the verse accounts of Nabonidus. Nabonidus gives firstborn son the kingship in year 3. Okay. Illustrations for the verse. Account of Nabonidus in the British Museum on the museum number. This states Nabonidus gave the kingship to his firstborn in the 3rd year of his reign. So we have all that here. Again, all this in the Wikipedia page or Wikipedia entry. To find out when Nabonidus gave Belshazzar the kingship, we can read the verse account of Nabonidus. This account seems to be written after Cyrus took over Babylon and compares the actions of Nabonidus with the actions of Cyrus. Contained in the narrative about Nabonidus is this quote about when he gave his eldest son the kingship. This document says it was the 3rd year of Nabonidus when the transfer of power occurred. After he, Nabonidus, had obtained what he desired, a work of utter deceit, had built this abomination, a work of unholiness. When the 3rd year was about to begin, he entrusted the army to his oldest son, his firstborn. The troops in the country he ordered under his command. He let everything go, entrusted the kingship to him and himself. He started out on a long journey. The military forces of Akkad marching with him. He turned to Tema, deep in the west. Okay, so he went into Edomite territory, right? Leaving from Babylon, came all the way west. Therefore, from these 2 documents, we can see that Nabonidus gave his eldest son, whose name is Belshazzar, the kingship in the 3rd year of Nabonidus' reign. Verification from their sources. A look at the ABC 7 for the 3rd year of Nabonidus also provides a possible reason that Nabonidus did this. He got very sick that year, but later recovered. If he got so sick that he feared he would die, that would be a reason to install Belshazzar as a co-regent king, quoting from the third year of the ABC 7 Nabonidus Chronicle. The third year, the month Abu and Amanus, the Amanus Mountains, orchids, all of the fruit from within them to Babylon became ill but recuperated. Okay. We also can verify that the writer of the verse account of Nabonidus was correct in saying that Nabonidus left Babylon and went to Tema, because in the ABC 7, the Nabonidus Chronicle, it is documented that after the king recuperated the third year, he took the army and went against Edom. See, that's what Tema is, in Edom. Requoting line 14 and then continuing on in the Chronicle, year 3. So it became ill, but recuperated in the month Kislamu. The king mustered his army and to Nabud Tatan User and Amaru. Today he camped against, there's just E here, Edom, the large army, I guess, would be there. This is all in the Wikipedia entry. You can read all of this there. So if I remember, I'm going to put this link in the section on the YouTube. It says the gate of Rugdaini, he defeated him. Okay, it must be the king. Tema is in Edom, and the ABC 7 specially mentions that the king was in Tema while the prince was in Akkad. Akkad is Babylon. For years, 7, 9, 10, and 11. Since the ABC 7 Chronicle provides a reason Nabonidus would give Belshazzar the kingship in the third year of his reign, and so states he went to the land of Edom and later to Teman. The verse accounts of Nabonidus is a credible source for determining the year that Belshazzar was given the kingship. It was in Nabonidus' third year. Okay, Daniel 11. 2, Daniel's vision about the ram and he-goat, Media-Persia would be a world power. A possible reason the actions of Cyrus and Astagates are on the ABC 7 starting in the Nabonidus' 6th year is that Daniel had a vision. Daniel chapter 8 verse 1 says, and this vision was in the third year of Belshazzar. In the third year of Belshazzar, King Belshazzar, a vision appeared to me, Daniel, after the one that appeared unto me in the first year. Okay, see here. Daniel saw the ram by the river Ulai, all right? And then that's Daniel chapter 8, 1 to 3, and illustration 6, the ram was the sole power and expanded his territory. Daniel chapter 8, verse 4. You see the ram here expanding, going spanning down to the west and different areas. And if Nabonidus gave Belshazzar the kingship in his third year, then the third year of Belshazzar would be the 5th year of Nabonidus. Since the chronicle continues to number the years according to Nabonidus' reign, it is probable that Belshazzar did not have a traditional ascension year or year 0. Therefore, Nabonidus' third year, Belshazzar's first year, Nabonidus' 4th year, Belshazzar's 2nd year, Nabonidus' 5th year, Belshazzar's 3rd year. In this vision, Daniel saw a ram which was very powerful and began expanding his empire for a while. It was the most powerful animal and had control of a large area. Okay. Continuing down here, so we saw what happened. Illustration 7, a male goat came from the west, Daniel 8 and 5. So we see it here. This is what Daniel is seeing. Illustration 8, the male goat defeated the ram. Okay, Daniel's 8, 6 through 7. Then a male goat came from the west and fought with the ram. He defeated the ram, and the rest of the vision is describing what happened to the goat. For the purpose of this paper, we will focus on the ram. After Daniel had the vision and was thinking about it, another angel told the angel Gabriel to tell Daniel what the dream meant. In Daniel 8:20 and 21, Gabriel tells Daniel that the ram in his vision represented the kings of Media and Persia, and the goat represented the king of Greece. The ram which you saw having the two horns, they are the kings of Media and Persia, and the male goat is the kingdom of Greece. Daniel 8:20 and 21. So Daniel knew that the kings of Media and the kings of Persia would be joined together into one power and would expand their territory. They would be the dominant power, world power, for a time until the Greeks would defeat them. After Daniel heard the interpretation of the dream, he fainted and was sick for a while. He eventually got better and went back to work doing the king's business, as it says there. Okay. Scrolling down. So we see it here. Illustration 9, Daniel told others about the dream after he went back to work for the king, right? Daniel went back to work and told the people about the vision. In Daniel 8:27, Daniel says he went back to work and was still astonished by the vision. It also is evident that he told people about this dream because he says no one understood it. Verse 27, and I, Daniel, fainted and was sick for days. Afterwards, I arose and went back. I arose and went about the king's business. I was astonished at the vision, but no one understood it. Since Daniel worked for the king and was in a high position in the government, it is very likely he was talking with the king, and other governmental officials. If Daniel told them his vision and explanation that the Medes and the Persians would start expanding their territory and become the next world power, it would be very reasonable then for the Babylonians to start monitoring the actions of the Medes and the Persians as a threat to their own status of the dominant world power. It would just be one more year until the Medes and the Persians become a consolidated power. When Cyrus captured Astagates, the last king of the Medes, this entry was significant enough to the Babylonians that they recorded it as the only event on their chronicle of Nebuchadnezzar's 6th year. Conclusion. By showing that Belshazzar's 3rd year was Nebuchadnezzar's 5th year, and that Daniel had a vision that year in which he was told the Medes and the Persians would be an expanding world power, there is now a reason for the Babylonians to have started monitoring the actions of the Medes and the Persians. The actions of Cyrus are recorded in the ABC 7 Nebuchadnezzar's Chronicle, starting in Nebuchadnezzar's 6th year, just 1 year after Daniel had the vision and told other people about it. The actions recorded in the beginning of the coalition of the Medes and the Persians, with Cyrus the Persian capturing Astagates, the last king of the Medes. The actions of the Medes and Persians continue to be recorded until Daniel's vision came true. The Medes and the Persians took over Babylon in Nebuchadnezzar's 17th year to become the unbeatable world power until the Greeks under Alexander the Great defeating them. We can be certain that the other prophecies in Daniel that are still in the future for us will be fulfilled as well. Okay, that's where we're going to stop that there. We see right here that proving again that the Bible is accurate. We have background historical information, documentation of what the Bible says about Belshazzar being the king, his father Nebuchadnezzar giving him the kingship, and the year given him, and why they're recording stuff in their chronicle. So just again, proving again the scriptures is accurate once you get historical documented information to prove it. So that's the understanding on Daniel, the 8th chapter, and its background. Let me start sharing there. Cut this off. That, I'm going to go to close it out. Got to give all praises to the Most High for his knowledge, wisdom, understanding, patience with myself and the entire nation, with the entire creation. Hope he continue to have patience and mercy with us and send the son of Mashiach Yahushua to get the Israelites out of the condition that we're in and go on to the reward of the saints, of the men who have done the work. And with that, again, if there's any questions or anything, you can leave it in the comment section on my YouTube channel and I'll respond there. Hopefully I said something and brought something out to help edify you in the word of the Lord and the knowledge of the Bible. You know, hopefully I'll try to continue to do that, continue to bring out new information that I don't hear no one speaking on. I want to do the same thing over and over again, but just try to bring out different things people are not touching on, different areas in the Bible. I can try to keep it fresh. Okay, so with that, let me start to end the stream out. Let me go on YouTube and the live stream there. Say shalom again to everyone on YouTube and on Club Deck. So let me close out the